Guys, I'm just gonna say it, 2023 looks to be one of the best years in gaming history. Think about the games we've already seen just in the first half of the year. Stuff like Resident Evil 4 Remake, Dead Space Remake, Street Fighter 6, Final Fantasy 16, Tears of the Kingdom. This list can go on and on and on because we've had so many great games in just this first half of the year. But what about the second half of the year? How does the second half of 2023 looks? And honestly, it looks to be just as good. There's a lot of games I'm really truly anticipating coming out later this year. And that's what we're gonna do with this episode of Nerd Space, guys, because we're gonna take a look at the games that are releasing starting from July 1st all the way down to December 31st. And I'm gonna go ahead and select 10 games that I am most excited about releasing in the second half of 2023. Now, of course, there are some games that officially don't have release dates. I'm not going to put those on this list. That includes stuff like Silent Hill 2 and Stalker 2. Both games I think may come this year, but officially we don't have a release date, so we're going to hold off on putting on that list. Anyways, my name is Ruben with Nerd Space, and here are my top 10 games that I am anticipating the most releasing in the second half of 2023. Let's get it. So number 10, Assassin's Creed Mirage. This game I am very much looking forward to. Honestly speaking, Assassin's Creed has not been my favorite franchise as of late. I think the last game I actually played was Odyssey, and it's mainly just because I felt like Assassin's Creed has kind of gone the direction of action RPGs. However, on October 12th, we are getting Assassin's Creed Mirage, and this game is supposed to be a love letter to the old school fans of the franchise as it dives down back into the roots of the Assassin's Creed franchise, which is fantastic because the last Assassin's Creed game I really enjoyed was Black Flag. Now, while this isn't going to be on the level of Black Flag, I still think it's going to have a lot of traits and aspects of the original games I fell in love with, where it feels more like you sneaking around, doing some amazing assassinations, and then running away and hiding from the enemies, instead of just going guns blazing like you pretty much do in the newer games. Number 9, and releasing on July 20th, one of the earlier games on this list is Immortals of Aveum. Now, I am hesitant to put this a little bit higher up, mainly just because it's EA, and I really don't like EA. There's a couple games that they knock out of the park, including the Dead Space remake, as well as the Jedi Survivor game. However, I am interested in this one for sure, mainly just because the combat looks really cool and unique with the magic effects and the hand motion that you do. Now, granted, I thought the same way about Forspoken. I'm like, Forspoken looks amazing. And then we get our hands on the game and yeah, it was anything but. But I have faith in Immortals of Aveum. I think this game's gonna turn out to be decently okay. And while the dialogue and the story doesn't seem that exciting, I think the real shining moment of this game is going to be the gameplay, and the gameplay looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully I'm not wrong there, guys. So number 8, and releasing on December 7th, we take a look at Avatar: The Frontiers of Pandora. Now, this game is also being done by Ubisoft. I know it's crazy. I have 2 Ubisoft games on this list, and I'm not really a big fan of Ubisoft, but this game looks great, and I'm a huge fan of the Avatar movies. And even if you weren't, this game still looks enticing. Actually, that's a great question to ask you guys in the comments. If you haven't seen the movies and you're not really a fan of the movies, did this game look exciting to you guys? Anyways, this game's supposed to be a first-person open world game set in the world of Pandora, which pretty much has so many different sceneries and environments to explore, from the floating islands to the dark mysterious forest to the plains of Pandora. There's so much to explore here, and there seems to be a lot to do in this game. You even have the ability to tame and ride and customize your own Ikram. The gameplay looks fantastic. The world looks beautiful and gorgeous, just like the movies. And get this, it's actually a 2-player co-op experience. So if you wanted to play with a buddy, you're good to go on this one. Like I said, the only thing I'm hesitant about is just the fact that it's Ubisoft. But hey, I am willing to give this a shot. Hopefully they don't drop the ball here, because this game does look really amazing just from the footage that we've seen so far. So number 7, and releasing on October 25th, Alone in the Dark. Now this game I was a lot more hyped for, if I'm being honest. Like when I first started seeing stuff on this game, I was extremely excited. It was probably in my top 3 survival horror games coming out later this year. Actually, there's a list on that, so go check that out. But what really enticed me about this game is the fact that Alone in the Dark, the franchise Alone in the Dark, actually is an inspiration behind creating Resident Evil. Resident Evil took a lot of aspects from the original Alone in the Dark game, and knowing that, with Resident Evil being one of my favorite franchises ever, I felt like Alone in the Dark is something that I wanted to actually experience. And from what I hear, a lot of the games in between the original all the way up to this one's release hasn't been that great. But this one seems to look pretty decent, and I'm excited to get my hands on it. Problem is they released a prologue demo called Grace in the Dark, and I get it, it was just a prologue, so there wasn't supposed to be much to the demo to begin with. However, there's almost no gameplay really at all. I didn't get to experience the combat or anything in the game, and the horror atmosphere itself didn't feel super grand, super exciting. So I'm hoping the demo was just, you know, rough, and that the main game is so much better, because I really do want this game to succeed. This seems to be the year of gaming, but even more so seems to be the year of survival horror, because there's so many survival horror games coming out this year. But with so many great survival horror games we've already seen and more still to come, I really want this to live up to the expectations and live up to the other games it's competing against. Either way, I'm going to check this game out on day 1. I'm very much excited for it still. It's just not as high up on the list as it probably originally would have been if it wasn't for me playing that demo. Number 6, and releasing on August 22nd, Fort Solace. Now this game has slowly kind of risen up on my list of expectations and excitement for a video game releasing this year. This game, honestly, I wasn't too excited for when I first heard about it. I'm like, it's alright, it looks okay. Then I played Dead Space Remake, and I really enjoyed that game. I really liked that game. And then I saw more trailers and gameplay on this, and we got more and more information on this game, and now I'm like, alright, I'm all in, let's go for this. I think the one thing that was kind of the big, hey, you have to play this, is just from the voice acting cast behind this game. You have both Troy Baker, who is the voice of Joel in the Last of Us games, and Roger Clark, who is the voice of Arthur Morgan from the Red Dead Redemption 2 game. So that's 2 amazing voice actors that are in this game, and the main character is voiced by Roger Clark. So this game takes place on Mars, and it's very similar to Dead Space, because you are an engineer who is on Mars, and you are investigating a base that seems to be completely vacant, and there's no crew members around, and you're trying to figure out what happened and what went down at this base. That's pretty much the synopsis of this game, and to me, that seems like a really interesting concept. I know we've seen it so many times before, but hey, nothing scarier than being alone in space. So I'm definitely down to check this out. Again, this is probably my love for survival horror coming out once again, because you can definitely see that this is going to have traits of survival horror in it, and I feel like this is going to be on the level of Dead Space. So on August 22nd, which, by the way, this release date was just announced yesterday at the time of me recording this, but on August 22nd, we're going to see Fort Solace. So number 5 on this list, and releasing on September 19th, and there's actually going to be 2 games that we're going to talk about releasing on that date, but the first one I'm going to talk about is Lies of P. So Lies of P is probably my biggest surprise thus far, because honestly, I was not excited for this game at all. I'm like, hey, it looks okay, but it's not really my style of game. I'm probably not going to dive too much into it. But basically, when I played the demo of this game, I fell in love with it. There's so much to like about it, and while the combat seems pretty simplistic in my opinion, overall this game seems to have a lot going for it. I think it's really going to be exciting to get my hands on and experience this game. So basically, this is kind of a combination of Pinocchio meets Bloodborne, basically. And I know that doesn't seem like it would match, but it really does, because they take some creative narratives from the Pinocchio lore and kind of create their own universe, steampunk-ish vibes with the Bloodborne tone and combat, all mixed with the storytelling of the Pinocchio lore. And I think this is gonna be an amazing experience. The demo was a lot of fun. I definitely got my ass handed to me multiple times in this game, and you probably will, because it is a Soulsborne game. But I think what's gonna elevate this game to a whole new level when it comes to the Soulsborne games is that this game actually seems to have a really good story attached to it. Don't get me wrong, I know all of the Soulsborne games have stories attached to it, but I feel like a lot of the stories are kind of For me, I always felt like that the gameplay was always the main priority, which is fine, it should be the main priority, but the story kind of came second. And when playing those Soulsborne games, with the exception of probably like Elden Ring, most of those Soulsborne games really doesn't have too much of a story to it. However, this one seems like it's going to have a very in-depth story, and I'm very excited to get my hands on this and learn more about the lore and story of this game. Seems like a lot of fun from the little bit I've already played of it. Definitely recommend checking out this demo to see if it's something that's fit for you guys, and let me know what you think after playing the demo. So number 4, we're going to take a look at another game that releases on September 19th, and that is Mortal Kombat 1. So I feel bad for Liza P because it is releasing on the same day as a huge blockbuster game, MK1. Now straight up, this is probably my favorite fighting game franchise ever. I love the game, I love the lore, I love the gameplay, I love the characters. Everything about Mortal Kombat screams to me in every single way. I don't normally like fighting games. I mentioned that on my review for Street Fighter 6. That I don't normally like fighting games. However, Mortal Kombat has always been one that really enticed me, and mainly it's because of the lore and the storytelling of the games. And while we're on that topic, it's gonna follow the cliffhanger left in the 11th installment, where the timeline was pretty much rebooted by Liu Kang. And as we enter this game, we're gonna see where that goes. Where does the story go? Diving down into this new entry. And I'm excited to see what characters are now gonna align with each other, who's gonna maybe switch sides based off of the new universe. And something that hasn't really been shown off too much, who is the actual main villain of this game? I thought Shang Tsung at first was gonna be the main villain. However, he didn't seem to be the main villain of this game, mainly just because he's actually part of a pre-order bonus, which if he's the main villain, I feel like he should have been included with the game, but maybe I'm wrong there. Either way, I really fell in love with the gore and the characters since the beginning of the franchise, and I'm so excited to dive back down into this. Do I wish that Injustice 3 was the game that was releasing this year instead of MK1? Yeah, of course. I love Injustice so much more, and I like the idea of them kind of switching back and forth between the two games. However, I am still very much happy for MK1. I'm gonna love this game. It's probably gonna be my favorite fighting game of the year. We'll see how it goes. There's a lot of mechanics that they're adding to this game that's going to be different. The cameo fighters is one of them. I'm interested to see how that goes. Some of the DLC characters that have already been leaked include Homelander and Omni-Man, which is a crazy fight that I would love to see play out. But there's really so much to love about this game. I can't wait to get my hands on it. I'm probably going to jump into this first before jumping to the Liza P, since they release the same day. But let me know in the comments, which game are you guys more excited for releasing on September 19th, and which one are you more likely to pick up? So number 3, we dive down to the more difficult games to rank on this list. But number 3 is going to go to a game releasing on September 6th, Starfield. Now, for a lot of people, they probably would put this as their number 1, and for good reason. This game is going to be massive. From the Starfield Direct that we saw, there's a lot in this game with so many different world building mechanics and over 1,000 worlds with so much to do in this game. I totally understand why this might be someone's number 1. But the fact of the matter is that the other 2 games I'm a little bit more excited for, and it might have a little bit to do with Bethesda themselves. Bethesda has really betrayed my faith and trust a lot. When you think about their previous games that they released the last few years, think about stuff like Deathloop. I didn't really like that game, even though a lot of people seem to really enjoy that one. I didn't like it at all. Then you look at Fallout 76, and while that game has improved, it was in a really rough state early on. And even Fallout 4, their last like big IP release, that game wasn't that great either. So it really has me thinking about the fact that I just don't think Bethesda has been able to knock it out of the park in a really long time, and I really think they need a win, and I think Starfield could be that win. And it better be, because Microsoft spent a lot of money to make sure this wasn't a PlayStation exclusive. But I really hope this game's going to be good. I think it is. It's coming day 1 to Game Pass, which is pretty crazy because this is a huge AAA title. But I'm really excited for this game. I can't wait to dive down into it. I'm glad there's not really too many games coming out for the next couple weeks after this release that I can focus on. So I'm glad I can spend like at least 2 weeks playing this game before Mortal Kombat and Liza P comes out. So number 2, releasing on October 17th, we take a look at yet another survival horror game, Alan Wake 2. Yes, I know this probably should not be higher than Starfield, but hey, I love my survival horror genre. I'm a huge fan of survival horror games, and Alan Wake 2 has me so excited on so many different levels. First off, let me start by saying that the game looks beautiful. The visuals, I think, are going to be on par, or at least try to compete with games like Final Fantasy 16 and Resident Evil 4 Remake. I think those are some of the best looking games thus far, and I think Alan Wake 2 has a chance to kind of compete with them on that level. This is one of those games that actually look next generation. But visuals aside, the whole story of the Alan Wake franchise, while this game is apparently not supposed to be too confusing to continue without playing the first game, the fact of the matter is, that first game, I absolutely loved. It definitely elevated the whole fear of the dark genre, where the darkness is terrifying and evil, and you have to fight back against it with the light. The mechanics in the game were amazing. The storytelling, of course, was top-notch. I really enjoyed that first game, and if Remedy can even come close to that same success of the first game, then I will be 100% satisfied, and I really hope they can do it. And I hope this game is a lot more popular than the original one, because believe it or not, the original game, despite fans really enjoying it and loving that original game, it really didn't sell that well. It's not a huge success for the company. So I really hope this second game, honestly, skyrockets, does really well. It's amazing, and I hope the story does the original justice. You play as two different characters in this one, which I'm iffy on because I love the whole aspect of following Alan Wake's story, but Saga Anderson does look like a really interesting character, so I'm excited to play as her as well. Again, for a lot of people, this probably isn't going to be their number 2, but hey, because I love my survival horror games, survival horror does have my heart, I have to give this the number 2 spot. But it's not the number 1 spot. No, that goes to something different. But before we get to the number 1 game I am most anticipating this year, for the second half of 2023, let's take a look at some honorable mentions, some games that I wish I could have put on this list, but I didn't, mainly just because I like these games better, or more so the reason has to do with the fact that I'm not 100% sure they are coming this year. Check it out.
And who the fuck are you?
It is darkness threatens to desolate our world.
So number 1, of course, releasing on October 20th, Marvel's Spider-Man 2. Guys, I cannot wait for this game. I'm gonna say it. I'm just going to say it. Marvel's Spider-Man 1 was Game of the Year in 2018. Step aside God of War. Don't get me wrong, I love you, God of War. You're amazing, but come on. Spider-Man was the perfect open world experience I've ever played in a really long time. Just everything about that game was amazing. The story, geez, the impact of the story was incredible. The twist, which had multiple twists by the way, the mystery throughout the game of who is going to be the main villain and who is going to get bit by yet another spider. Spoiler, turns out to be Miles Morales. But we easily could have got a Mary Jane Spider-Woman. There was so much about that game that I really enjoyed, but that's just the story I talked about. Let's look at some of the other things that were really great about that original game. The web swinging mechanics. Swinging around New York City has never felt better. There's been plenty of Spider-Man games, and in my opinion, none of them have hit it on the level of Marvel Spider-Man. Not even the original Spider-Man 2 that everybody loved. This game is superior to just about every superhero game out there. Yeah, I said it, even more so than the Batman Arkham games. And the cliffhanger of where that game left off at, guys, I can't wait to see how that plays out in this one. It's not really spoilers because the game has been out for about 5 years now, and the sequel is already advertising and marketing what the game's gonna be focused on. But at the end of the game, Norman Osborn walks in and looks at his son, who is in like this tank combined with the symbiote, which basically hints that maybe Harry Osborn could become Venom for Marvel Spider-Man 2. But that's actually what's really cool leading up to this release, is that it seems like it's a mystery as to who is Venom. Other than some artwork, we really haven't seen who Venom is. And I think it's gonna be a huge shock when it turns out to be someone that we might not be expecting. They've already said that Eddie Brock is not Venom in this game. And because of all the mysteries surrounding Venom, I feel like it's too obvious for it to be Harry Osborn. So there's been a lot of rumors that it could be Norman Osborn or Kraven the Hunter, or some of the most craziest theories actually goes back to Peter Parker himself. Either way, no matter which direction they go with this game, the story is going to be more impactful than the original game in my opinion, and the gameplay already looks fantastic, where you can switch back and forth between Peter and Miles throughout the story. Guys, this game looks like perfection. I've been waiting and praising Spider-Man 2 for a long time. I cannot wait to get my hands on this. I really enjoyed the first game. Miles Morales was also a great addition to the game, but now jumping into a game where you can play as both Miles and Peter, and potentially Venom. We don't know how much of that is going to play a part in this game. Guys, this game, hands down, could easily be Game of the Year, like it should have been when God of War beat it out. Again, respect God of War. But that's going to do it for this episode of Nerd Space. Guys, thank you for joining me on this episode. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button if you really enjoyed this video, and share this video with your friends and family. Also, hit up the comments, guys. Let me know which game are you most excited for releasing in the second half of 2023. Is it on this list, or is it a game completely off of this list that you really are looking forward to that me personally, I'm not? I can't wait to hear your opinions, guys, but as always, I'll see you on the next Nerd Space. Take care.